And like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have Garrett Grandy back with us. He's been with us, goodness, I think 3 or 4 times previously. And since the Garrett was with us the last time versus this time, Garrett got the bright idea to start a podcast. And Garrett, a podcast host now. Garrett, welcome back. And then also let the people know about your podcast, where they can listen to your podcast, and what makes it unique to you.
Absolutely. So I decided to start the podcast because I had so much fun being on yours, and I was on another one. And I just, I love talking about sports. I think what makes mine unique is I do try to talk about things that not everybody wants to talk about. And even with the latest like social justice issues and stuff, not a lot of white guys, if you will, want to talk about that. But I do try to talk about it because I think it's important, and it does affect us. It does affect sports, and I try to be respectful of that and bring light to it because I think it's an important issue. So I try to talk about things that that are fun and that are interesting, and and I try to change it up because everybody, it's easy for me to just kind of talk about Boston sports, but I do try to stretch myself into other areas. So I'm working on getting more guests and stuff besides yourself. I do like having you on, and you just were on, so that was exciting. We got to talk about the NBA, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple now. So
Okay.
So I'm trying to stretch it out more. I got a couple people lined up. I have a friend that's pretty good with baseball. I don't get into baseball much, but he is real smart when it comes to baseball. He's a big Chiefs fan from Missouri, so I'm sure we'll get into the Chiefs and be able to talk about that. So yeah, I got some things coming out, and of course some things that are still there for people to check out. I think I still really enjoyed our discussion we had on racism, and I thought that was really good. It was by far the most listens to that I got because I felt like people were really interested in it. It was a time when things were starting to, kind of when the George Floyd thing just happened, and so it was really fresh in people's minds. And I thought we did you gave a good perspective on that, and I've gotten great feedback on that. So I think the thing that makes mine unique is I do like to try to talk about things that are outside my comfort zone. I don't want to just stay in the comfort zone. So. Yeah.
Nice. From the outside looking in, well, I say outside, I know you personally, but as someone that is seeing you start a podcast that you love, you put time into, I also want to say you're doing a good job. Keep up with that. But I am curious because I know what I would answer when it comes to this situation. But what would you say is the most enjoyable thing, and then one thing that you're constantly striving to get better at since you're podcasting? Because people listening to this, they're like, oh, wow, Garrett has a podcast. That's great. Jared has a podcast. That's great. It's all easy. It's all roses. They wake up in the morning and just hit record and it all goes over smooth. Guys, that's not how it goes at all. Trust me. You want to laugh at me? Go back to episode number 1. I didn't know what I was doing 10, 20, 30 to this point now. These things are very, very different. So what's been something that's been enjoyable, most enjoyable, and then something you're always striving to get better at?
Sure. I think most enjoyable is, having people on like yourself. I think that I like doing like the interview style more than I thought I would. I like trying to think of questions to ask the particular person that I'm talking to. I think that's been the most enjoyable. That, when you say the least enjoyable and most difficult is, believe it or not, it's just kind of breaking it up into different topics and not getting bogged down on one thing. So people, when they listen, they're getting, 4 or 5 different topics rather than just – now there could be one, Kobe Bryant's passing away or something, you want to just focus on that one thing because that's a huge thing. But sometimes throughout the week, there's 30 huge things that happen, and you're like, what do I talk about? So then I have to look at what is Jay talking about? What is this person talking about? What is this? And say, okay, do I want to talk about that, or do I want to hit something else because they've talked about it and they did a good job talking about it? I'm not trying to outdo somebody or come up with something out of the box per se. So looking at the sports world and saying, what can I talk about? Maybe that's different. Like I talked about in one of my most recent ones, I went into the Mike Milbury situation with the NHL, and I talked about how Montrezl Harrell and what he said, and then there was somebody else, I can't remember who it was. It was the broadcaster for I think it was the Cardinals.
Tom Brenneman for the Reds.
Reds, thank you. Reds said something. There was like a homophobic type reference or something, and like I went into that, like how we're so scrutinized by our words and how that could even affect someone like me and you, what we say on the podcast. So I think that's like been the toughest part is trying to break it up and not just get bogged down into one. Because I could talk about just NFL forever, and go into every. But I want to get into hockey. I want to get into baseball. I want to get into other sports. The thing that happened in NASCAR with the noose and all. Like, there's so many different things you can get into, and that's what I think has been difficult, but also stretched me. So.
He mentioned hockey. I kind of prompted Garrett with this earlier. I wasn't sure this was going to happen, but there's a team in Vegas that's not been in the NHL very long, still playing in the conference finals right now. And unfortunately, those Boston Bruins out in Boston, they lost to Tampa 4-1 in the semifinal round. I can see your face right now. Those watching via YouTube, this is on YouTube as well, trying to make the YouTube channel bigger than what it already is. You'll be able to see Garrett's face and see the look on his face when I mention Vegas, an expansion team, still in my mind, they're an expansion team, still playing. Boston is not. With their success and you guys not being there right now, how tough is it? How tough of a pill is it to swallow, knowing you guys should still be there, but you're not?
Well, here's the thing. I think they played Carolina round 1 and just wiped them out. But I think it's because they're just a better team, even without. Now I don't know if you know, but the goalie Tuukka Rask left the bubble for what they said they said it was personal reasons. Now, there's whatever, and then I found out he was playing golf. So I was kind of. He was playing in Norton, Massachusetts. Norton is world renowned, having one of the I think the U.S. Open they're about to have to use a couple years the same golf course. So you have to be a pretty good player to play there. So he's out there playing golf, and then our backup. And the thing about goalies that people don't realize too is that people say, oh, it's so easy to play. If you listen to broadcasters or former, they say that in a 3-hour game or like a 5 overtime game like we saw. The goalie could lose 20 pounds by the end of that game. 20 pounds. So when you only have one goalie, you're not going to do well because you're typically when you're and in the bubble they had back-to-backs, which is horrible for a goalie because you want that day's rest to rehydrate and work out and get yourself ready for the next game. So and just Tampa's so much more of a talented team, a faster team. So, yes, it is a tough pill to swallow that there's an expansion team. But as far as I know with the expansion team, they kind of have a conglomerate, if you will, of experienced players that they got from these other teams, if you will, exhibition draft. So they were able to bring in some of these guys. That's why I think like a team like the Kraken, the Kraken are probably going to, steal some of these players from these other teams and probably be just as good as Vegas is, right off the bat. Whereas, when you look at the NFL, when Houston came, they struggled for a while, but it seems to be different in the NHL. Seems like those expansion teams, they play well. But yeah, it's discouraging. It was, but the team is getting older. They're probably maybe a year away from rebuilding. But man, the Lightning, to me, they are the marquee organization right now as far as with the drafting, and it would not surprise me if they won the whole thing. I think they will win the whole thing. And I think as far as the championship, some people say, oh, it should have an asterisk. I don't think so. I think this is the toughest one to win. As far as the same thing with the NBA. I think it's easy sometimes. You play it at home. You have the crowd. You have the hype. Now you don't. Most of it, you didn't have your family there. You had no fans. And so basically you're playing for the love of the game. And so it's probably the toughest one to win. And I think the Lightning, I think it's going to take it the whole way. But I think it will be, them in Vegas. But Vegas is really good too. But yes, it is a tough pill to swallow. But
it is. It is.
Who they were playing. That's why it didn't surprise me.
Okay. You mentioned when speaking of the expansion team of Vegas, you mentioned the Houston Texans in the NFL. Just this week, Deshaun Watson, as the kids say, he got the bag and got a big contract extension. A team in the AFC South that you have teams there. Well, you have the Jaguars. Nobody knows what they're doing. People want the Titans and hope Titans fans hope they can have the same success that they had last year. The Texans did lose DeAndre Hopkins, but then they also have a premier, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Let's start with the AFC South. Guys, I know Garrett and I can talk about anything for a while, but he's here to talk about the NFL. So let's go ahead and move right that way. Houston Texans. When you think about Deshaun Watson, the quarterback, what kind of things are you projecting to see from him this year?
I think he's going to really struggle, actually. DeAndre Hopkins is a security blanket. I mean, you could throw the ball to him, and 9 times out of 10 he's going to go up and get it. He's just one of those players that he's just going to go up and get it. I think he's going to struggle. I don't like the relationship he has with Bill O'Brien. I think we've talked about that in the past. I still think there's a bad relationship there, and I just don't think that man is a winner. I think he gets there and then he does something stupid, or like in the playoffs there's something about him. To me, he just doesn't seem like a head coach, and I don't think he's going to make it past it. I think he'll get through this year, but I don't think he's going to make it past this year. I could see with the incoming of Phillip Rivers makes the Colts better. It does make the Colts better. I don't think it makes them necessarily a Super Bowl team until they can draft somebody and develop him. But I think it makes them that division winner. There's your first prediction. I think the Colts are going to win that division. And I think Tennessee is a lot better. They just brought in Clowney. So, I mean, and their offensive line in Houston's not that great. So I think they're gonna struggle. And then they brought in was it David Johnson?
Mm-hmm.
And David Johnson can't stay healthy.
True.
And so I don't know. To me, I think this is the year. I think he's gonna struggle. And I think it's gonna start with week 1. I think the Chiefs are gonna roll over him in week. I really do. They're gonna come in and they're gonna be hyped. They just won the Super Bowl. And I know people say, "Oh, the Super Bowl hangover and stuff." The Chiefs brought back 18 of their 22 players, and Mahomes is actually healthy. He was not healthy in that Super Bowl, yet probably 75, 80%. Tyreek Hill was not healthy at the end of the year. Everybody's gotten their rest, and now I think they're going to come in guns a-blazing, and maybe there'll be a shootout. I know the Texans brought in Brandon Cooks, but again, Brandon Cooks can't stay healthy. He's had how many concussions? One more concussion, his career is done.
Yeah, man, it's bad.
He is one concussion away from being done. And so if he gets hurt, who's he throwing the ball to? Who's he going to throw the ball to?
Will Fuller the fourth.
Yeah, Will Fuller. And Will Fuller the fourth, try to say that 5 times fast. He can't stay healthy either.
I had to throw it out to you. Yeah. No, he can't. He can't stay. No, he can't at all.
None of their team can stay healthy, and he's going to get killed because he's not going to have a running game. Because once I cross my fingers, I hope David Johnson stays healthy. But if he doesn't, they're in trouble. And then you're going to start hearing rumors about Bill O'Brien halfway through the season. Is he going to make it through the season? And then you're going to hear, once you start losing, then the players get frustrated. Plus, you have no fans. How frustrating is it when you're losing? You have no fans to be there cheering you on, and your players are getting hurt. And he's probably saying, I had this relationship with Hopkins, and now he's gone. You sent him out of town. Oh, yeah, you paid me all this money. Yeah, but who am I throwing the ball to besides Will Fuller the fourth? You know what I'm saying? So I like Will Fuller, but he's not the number 1 guy. We know that.
No,
he's maybe a number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he'll have this big game, and then the next game he'll just fall off the planet. And how do I know this? Because last year in my fantasy league, I had Will Fuller, and I said, "Oh man, I got to pick him up." He just had 3 touchdowns, and the next 3 weeks he went dead, completely gone, like he wasn't even playing. So, and then he got hurt. So, I mean, the Texans to me, they're just one of those teams I think is going to really struggle this year.
Yeah, and guys, I will tell you this quickly. This is going to be a show where I do very little talking on purpose to just kind of help Garrett just tee him off. And as you know, he can ramble and go on and on and on forever. So let's go right from the AFC South to the AFC East. No, Buffalo fans are not going to you. No, Miami fans are not going to you. You guys have 2 quarterbacks. I don't want to talk about your Ryan Fitzpatrick versus Tua Tagovailoa. Who's going to be that quarterback? Who's going to win that battle? And we're not talking about Sam Darnold. But there's a guy, for those of you, Garrett's in I'm in Garrett's fantasy league, and he's in mine. So we have 2 different teams. And I think one of his fantasy team names has Cameron Newton's name in the name of it.
Lights, camera, action, baby.
With the C-A-M and camera as capitalized. Take the fan out of it. Just be unbiased right now.
Okay.
Just analyze this the way that I think a podcast host should. When looking at the New England Patriots, and the first thing I look at is not Cameron Newton, and what happens back in June and July with so many players opting out. And I think just to me, that's going to be the biggest hindrance to this team.
Yep.
Forget Cameron Newton in the way that he's played and him being hurt last year and a half. Back to 2018, yeah, he had a good first half of the season, whatever it is. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk, but I got to get this out.
All right.
When you look at this team, to me, I think that Cam Newton could be a guy some people can rally around. When you're missing, I think Dante Hightower, I think Patrick Chung, just to name two guys on defense, where you're missing guys like that, Garrett, I think that's going to speak way more volumes and speak louder on the field than anything Cameron Newton does.
Right. Here's what I'm hearing as far as, because I listen to local radio, I listen to guys that have been to the camp. As far as I know, the style of offense that they're trying to run is more of a bully ball, jam it down your throat with running. They've got Harris, apparently Damian Harris is playing really well in camp. They got James White. They've still got Rex Burkhead. I know, he's kind of sketchy, streaky to me, but he could get you some tough yards. So as far as I know, the style of offense they want to run is more of a jam you with the fullback, because the fullback they have now, they had James Devlin. He retired. He was, one of the best fullbacks in the game. I mean, three or four-time champion. But this guy, Jakob Johnson, that they have out of former rugby players, pretty big.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the idea is that they want to – and their offensive line is going to be pretty good. But David Andrews is back. He had the heart condition, but he's back this year. So they should be better as far as on the offensive line. And I think you're right. As a podcaster, I have to look, critically, not as a fan. And I'm looking at who they're throwing the ball. Who's he going to throw the ball to?
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, but N'Keal Harry. The thing about N'Keal Harry that I don't like is, to me, he doesn't get separation. Now
he was also hurt last year as well. He was hurt, right. didn't get a regular rookie year. We haven't
really seen his full potential,
no.
And so it'll be interesting to see how. Now here's the difference between Cam and Tom. Tom is if you don't separate and play well, he will yell at you and say, "What are you doing?" Yeah. Cam is more put his arm around you and say, "Hey, buddy, are you okay? Everything all right?" So that might be better for maybe N'Keal Harry will play better with that style. It seems to be that Bill Belichick has kind of wrapped his arms around Cam and, saying he's the hardest working player ever. He just had a guy for 20 years. I think it's a shot at Brady. This is my opinion. But, I think this is the, what we're going to see is I think there may be an 8-8, 9-7 team. Just strictly because of the division. I think they can beat the Jets twice, and Miami's getting better, but I don't think they're there yet. Maybe one more year. So you probably get one, maybe even both of them, but they always typically struggle playing in Miami. But then again, there's no fans. So it's so different this year because without fans, it's going to be interesting to see how that changes the outcomes of these games. Same thing we see now in the NBA and these other leagues. So I agree with you that, yes, he's ultra talented, but he can't do everything. He can't throw the ball to himself, and he's got a lot of miles on those legs and a lot of injuries, and so if we think he's going to go up and be Lamar Jackson, we're crazy because he's not, and he's not. He's different than Brady, as in the sense of Brady's more of a timing, and the New England offense is based off timing, whereas Cam is more of see it and then put it there. Tom's more of slants and those. So I'm interested to see how Josh McDaniels is, to me, is a genius offensively, and Bill Belichick doesn't get enough credit as far as his offensive mind, and so I'm interested to see what they do. I've heard rumors about two quarterbacks and kind of like what New Orleans does, but I just don't see that. I think it's Cam or bust this year for them, and Cam's got a lot to prove. I think this is it. I mean, he probably will play 1 year in New England. And then somebody else, maybe the Colts, maybe somebody else will look and say, well, I know you're shaking your head, but I know Phillip Rivers, he's about to retire, so maybe the Colts will take a look at him, or somebody else that kind of needs a quarterback that, because Cam still can play probably another 5-6 years if he stays healthy. So my thoughts on that are, I would say 9-7 for them, and I think Cam will get you, he'll throw 3,500 yards if he stays healthy. If he doesn't, I think we'll see Brian Hoyer. I don't think we're going to see Jarrett Stidham.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because Jarrett Stidham apparently is dealing with a hip injury. It's actually like a.
How do you not play and get a hip injury? Explain that to me, Garrett.
I can't. I want to root for this kid. I like him. I think he's a likable guy. He's everything Tom Brady is not. If you're not a Patriots fan, you might look at Stidham and say, I kind of like that guy. If you're not a Patriots fan, you look at Tom Brady and say, I hate that guy. And even now, part of me says, I hate the way he is right now, as far as Tom Brady's concerned. We want to talk about that. But don't like the way he is right now. So maybe I'm finally seeing what everybody else saw for 20 years. But Stidham, how do you have a soft tissue injury when you haven't even played in God knows how long? And yet you didn't play last year because Tom Brady ain't giving up that seat anytime soon. And so you tell me, as far as I'm concerned, Brian Hoyer would be the better option if something happens to Cam Newton. And I think Brian Hoyer's a feasible backup. He knows the offense. He's been in and out of New England system for how long? Forever. And as far as what I've heard from other players, they say, hey, Brian Hoyer's, a pretty good guy. He's a pretty good quarterback. He knows he can learn the system, not just in New England, but other places that he's played. So, but then again, I still think it's even with Cam, because they just don't have anybody. And all the, like you said, all the players that they lost on the defense, this will be, if the Patriots even win this division, this could be Belichick's greatest coaching year yet, because nobody is giving them a chance to do much of anything. With all the players they lost, you lost your quarterback who was around for 20 years, and then they just released Mohamed Sanu. So I don't know who they're throwing the ball to. Their tight ends, I'm excited to see how the rookies do. I think they drafted some good tight ends, and Bill Belichick has always been really good at drafting tight ends. Aaron Hernandez, I hate to mention his name, but he was a good player. We'll just say that. He wasn't a great person, but he was a good player.
Yeah.
And then Rob Gronkowski, and then Benjamin Watson they had, and then way back in the day they had Jermaine Wiggins, who wasn't terrible, and Daniel Gray. So he's been pretty good as far as drafting tight ends. So I think we're going to see load him up front and just try to ram the ball down your throat. That's the type of offense I expect.
I was going to go to Lamar Jackson next because you mentioned him with Cam Newton, but you mentioned the former quarterback of the Patriots and Tom Brady, and you said, we'll not really talk about him right now. Well, you're going to talk about him and that team right now. The Buccaneers, very interesting to me. We all know the Bruce Arians offense, how prolific and how elite that can be if you're a quarterback that wants to sling the ball and throw the ball around the yard, getting your receivers great, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of passing yards, everything that goes with that. Cam Newton, not Cam Newton, Jameis Winston last year, no longer in Tampa, but you look at Jameis last year, one reason why he was so confident in those postseason press conferences, because he did throw for over 5,000 yards. Everybody harps on these 30 INTs, but he also threw for 30 touchdowns and over 5,000 yards. Yes, Jameis has been a bad decision maker going back to his days at Tallahassee playing for Florida State. So we expect that from him, but we do know he can throw the ball around the yard. Yep. Jameis's arm is a different arm than Tom Brady's, but Tom Brady's mind is a different mind than Jameis Winston. Right. When you look at the Buccaneers, how do you think this transition in Tom Brady's career, knowing the kind of offense Bruce Arians runs, knowing what Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski and I think it's Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard and Leonard Fournette and Shady McCoy and Ronald Jones, trust me, all those good positions in the world, but he also has a rookie right tackle and an offensive line last year that got Jameis sacked quite a bit. I just paint the picture that way. When you think about Tom Brady going from where he was for 20 plus years down to Tampa, yeah, weather's great. But the transition, I'm curious to see how you view him going there at this point in his career.
Here's my first thought. Will he be happier? Yes. If they start losing, will he be happy? No. And I think if he looks across the pond, if you will, and New England actually wins a few games, maybe he'll go, did I make the right decision here? Because he doesn't want to lose. He's the ultra competitor. There's no doubt about that. I have racked my brain thinking about this team. Now I'm gonna make a comparison here that you're gonna laugh when I say it. But remember the Lakers when they had Kobe Bryant and they brought in Dwight Howard and Steve Nash, and everybody said
2012.
Yeah, everybody said, "Oh man, they're gonna win the championship. They're gonna be so good," and they were awful. Because
might I remind you, recently in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns were that same team. Now, they were not as elite as the Lakers were players-wise, and not as prolific as Tom Brady as Baker Mayfield. Right. But everybody was on the bandwagon of the Browns recently, and we all know how that story ended.
And look at the division. Oh man, in the conference, and their schedule is tough. You got to play the Saints twice. You got to play. I don't care what anybody says. Playing the Falcons is not easy.
No,
it's never easy. Even if they go 7-9, every game they play, they're gonna put up points and they're gonna put up yards. And how is Tom Brady going to respond from playing from behind? In New England, typically they always play from ahead. That's what we've seen. That defense is young. We'll see what happens. It's really kind of a wait and see. But if they fall behind against the Saints, if they fall behind against Atlanta, I think they're going to struggle. I could see them going 10-6, but I don't think they're the Super Bowl champion. I don't think that. I don't even think they're the NFC champion. Divisional round, probably. That's about maybe as far as they'll go. I think the transition, it seems to be fine. But didn't we think in New England that everything was hunky-dory? Everybody was so happy and they looked so happy. But then we find out now that they really kind of hated each other. And so we'll see what happens when Tom gets frustrated with these guys. How are they going to respond? Because you got Jameis. Same thing we said with Cam and Tom. When you have Jameis making mistakes out there, or, when his players drop passes, which they did many times, those Godwin, and sometimes they can drop some passes. I watched their game in London. Jameis was making great throws and drop after drop after drop. And Tom Brady, at 43 years old, a cranky old man, might come out a little bit, and we'll see what happens. He as a captain doesn't surprise me. But I think as far as him and Arians, I think him and Arians will get along fine, just because look who he had before. He's got probably some offensive control. There's no doubt that Gronk is there because Brady said, I want Gronk. They brought him in because they wanted him there. And Arians says, oh, Gronk looks like he did 6-7 years. I don't buy it. I think that's a bunch of baloney. I saw Gronk the last 2-3 years. He hasn't had a great year since 2011. The man has so many miles on his body. Yeah. How many surgeries? 4 back surgeries. I think, this is my prediction, I think he's just kind of a third down goal line, maybe a decoy. And really, we'll see how Howard and Brake do. I think they're your main guys as far as tight ends are concerned. And Gronk's kind of more of probably in there for blocking. His blocking is bar none. He can still block. I mean, as long as he's not running downfield and trying to make huge plays, he can block. He can be that extra guy. So, with all their running backs, they brought in Fournette. We'll see how he does. But, I mean, he could be, your goal line back. Ronald Jones ain't a small guy. McCoy's still we saw in Kansas City, he can still make plays. He's a little older now, but can still make plays. So, yeah, I think 9-7 would be my prediction. I think the Saints own that division. I don't think they're going to get by the Saints. I just don't. So
my hesitation with Gronk in the goal line situation, when you think about Gronkowski, year off of playing football, I've heard him say his playing weight is at 260, I believe. He's down to about 245.
He looks skinnier than that.
But he's feeling the best he's ever felt. He could be lighter. He could be lighter than 245. But he's feeling the best he's ever felt with less weight, and his back doesn't have the pain or the tension that it used to. So you think about – and he actually said he has to put on weight to play in the NFL, but putting on weight messes up his back. So I'm really curious to see if that goal line situation, if he's very situationally placed in the offense, and seeing how that affects him, if he's able to last 12 games. I think that's even a stretch. With not just having a year off, but just the way his body is. You mentioned it so well, the way that he's just been broken down for so long. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to see Gronk play double-digit games this season. And that's not even consecutively. It could be 2 games here, 4 games here.
If they're smart, they'll save them is what they'll do. They're smart.
But based off what you just said, which I mean, if it's 9-7, that may not even get you the 7th seed in the NFC. Based off of the other, we're going to get to another team here quickly, who I think is people have had a lot of respect for lately, but with some changes there with the team, that may be something different. So 9-7 may not get the Buccaneers to the playoffs. So the whole thought of saving him, I'll put it like this. People say LeBron James saves himself for the playoffs. Well, LeBron James has a track record of every year getting to the playoffs and not losing in the first round. So if his team has a 3 or 4 or 5 game losing streak, LeBron James is washed up. But then at the same time, that same person says LeBron James is saving himself for the postseason. And we're seeing it right now in the second round. Second round for LeBron is different than first round LeBron, is different than seeding games LeBron. So LeBron, I think, his motor is getting up and up and up. Now I'm curious to see how deep he can go based off the opponents that we project him to play. Whoever it is from the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, we kind of all know who he's probably going to play. So I'm really curious to see how he's able to keep his body intact at the same time, just like a Gronkowski. If he's situationally placed, I personally am not sure how long that lasts. Because let's say they are 6-6, 12 games. They have 4 games left, and they may have to go 4-0 in the last 4 games of the season to get into the playoff, just to sneak into the 7th seed. I don't know, man. I don't know, but I'll transition this way. But a team that people down in Dallas are very, very excited for. Mike McCarthy is back coaching. He's there in Dallas. You have Dak Prescott. You have C.D. Lamb. You have other guys there, Ezekiel Elliott. You have guys on the defense that should play very well this year. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team, as so many of them call this team here. I wanted to say that in a Jerry Jones voice, but I'm not going to do it. I want to say that emulation for another day. But the Dallas Cowboys' new head coach, make this kind of quick because I'm going to play a little game with you here in a little bit. We're going to have a little fun. The Dallas Cowboys, when you think of this team, guys, if you're on the podcast, he has a thumbs down right now. Why is that the case?
I think Dak is going to be frustrated. And I think you're going to see that out of his play. And he is somebody to me that I don't know. He plays so good sometimes, but yet people still down him so much. Maybe it was because of where he was drafted or just the talent that's around him. Like, anybody can anybody can play well with that talent around him. I think Elliott's going to have a great year. Cooper can't stay healthy for any reason. I don't know. For me, I always when he's there in my fantasy draft, I'm like, I don't know if I want to pick him because if I pick him, he could be hurt 3 weeks in and then he takes 3 weeks off. CeeDee Lamb will be interesting. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to be really good. And like you said, defensively, they'll still be pretty good. Though I think they did lose Byron Jones. Is he out? I think he's gone.
Ooh, I think
so. Somebody else.
They lost the D tackle as well. I forget who it was.
They lost a couple defensive pieces. Maybe I'll figure it out. But I think Byron Jones is out, I think is a huge loss for them. So I know McCarthy's there, and McCarthy ain't no slouch. He's a Super Bowl champion. But boy, oh boy, I think with him, I think I could see. McCarthy's going to be different than Jason Garrett. He's not going to be clapping his hands when they're down 21. Okay,
True.
Jason Garrett. I don't think he's a bad coach. I don't think he's a head coach. I think he's more of an offensive coordinator. I think he's always been an offensive coordinator, even when he was a head coach. And of course, he was, kind of grew up in the Jones family. He played in Dallas, and so he was, Jerry Jones. You heard Jerry Jones say he was like a son to me. So it broke his heart. McCarthy ain't gonna break no hearts here. Okay? To me, I think he's kind of a no bull crap kind of guy. And if he sees Dak struggling, I think he's gonna put Andy Dalton in, and I think he's not gonna waste any time. I don't think he's gonna cry over it or worry about what people have to say. If Dak struggles, Dalton may come in, and Dak may not be a Cowboy next year. He still hasn't got paid. He's watching everybody else get paid. Mahomes, Watson. Maybe he's saying, where's my paycheck?
Yeah.
So now, from what I know, Jerry Jones, typically he does treat his players like they are family. They can battle. I think it was Des Bryant recently who said, I think I was the first player to yell back at Jerry Jones. Well, look where he is. He ain't there no more. So we'll see what happens. An interesting thing for me, and I'm done after this with the Cowboys, but an interesting thing for me that's not a lot of people have brought up, but Jerry Jones hasn't been very vocal when it comes to the social justice issues.
Mm-mm.
And a lot of players and some other owners and sports broadcasters have said, hey, where's Jerry? Jerry hasn't said anything on this issue. And I believe he said that players that kneel, he will find them. Like, he's very big on standing up and respecting, if you will, the flag and the national anthem. So I would be interested to see if the players decide they're going to kneel, and if they decide, which could happen, if they're not going to play 1 week, if that happens, because you know how the NFL is, they don't want to fall behind everybody else. They want to set the standard, And so it'll be interesting to me to see that dynamic. If the players start saying, hey, we're going to kneel and we're going to do these things on our own without Jerry Jones' approval, I think that'll be combustible for them. So maybe that's kind of a part of the situation. I just think that Dallas Cowboys, I don't like their organization. They haven't won in a long, long time. And Dak's going to get frustrated. And if Dak gets frustrated, maybe Ezekiel gets frustrated. And then you got some young players, and Cooper doesn't stay healthy. So that's just I don't like Dallas. It's not just because I'm not a fan of them. I just think that division is – the Giants are getting better, and the Eagles are still right there. Hopefully, if Wentz can stay healthy, he's just somebody I want to stay healthy. I like him as a guy, as a player. I think he's phenomenal. And I think he's just a great all-around person. So I want him to stay healthy. And I think Washington defensively is going to be really good. And they may present some problems for Dallas. And you even saw last year, Washington, I think, took one of those games. Even as bad of a team as they were last year, they still presented problems for Dallas. That division is always tough. And so, like you're saying, does 9-7 get you in the playoffs? Probably not. So if Dallas does go 9-7, we'll have to wait and see what happens with them. So I'm not big on them.
I just looked it up. There's actually two players that the Cowboys just released. Gerald McCoy, I believe he had an injury. That there was an injury clause that if he got this injury, we can release him. And then also they just released HaHa Clinton-Dix. So that's a loss as well. Whenever I say his name in my head, I have to not laugh. When I think of HaHa, I always want to laugh automatically. I remember when he played at Alabama and Vern Lundquist used to call his games on CBS. And I was like, is that really that kid's name? Well, it's not his it's not his real government name, but that's what he goes by. So that is there. But I mentioned earlier, we're going to play a little game.
Sure.
Just a fun way to kind of see the first player that comes to your mind when you hear a particular team. Sure. So I heard this on a podcast actually earlier today, and I was like, let me go ahead and see how this is for Garrett. So I will go through more teams that we just went through just to kind of see what's going on. After this, we will wrap this up, division winners. I'll give you mine. You'll give me yours. And then also I'll stop there with mine. You'll go ahead and do your conference championship, and then also Super Bowl champion as well.
Man, I want to hear yours. Let's see.
Okay. So I got teams here. We're going to go through quite a bit quickly, or maybe prolong it just to see how much fun we have with this. So just tell me the first player that comes to your mind when you hear this particular team. First one that's in my paper, the New York Jets.
The New York Jets. Le'Veon Bell, first name that comes to my mind.
Okay. New England Patriots.
Do I have to give a player?
Yeah, of course.
Has to be a player. Okay.
That's on the team now.
That's on the team now. Devin McCourty. Because I think as far as leadership, Cam, he hasn't even played a game yet, so I can't say Cam. So I'll say Devin McCourty. I think he's the leader of the team.
Guys, those of you listening, I will tell you why I'm doing this right now at the very end, just because it's kind of interesting. I'm not putting names down, but more putting something else in that little note that I'm making on my paper. I'll explain it at the end. Houston Texans, first player that comes to your mind.
Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
Yep.
Buffalo Bills.
What's his Javarius White? Is that how you say his name? Tre'Davious White? Tre'Davious White.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who I think of. White.
Okay. Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ooh. I'll go with Uncle Rico. Gardner Minshew. I think they rise and fall with him this year.
Same division, Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, man. You're going to hate me for this one. Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
I know he hasn't played yet, but I think, I think they're more dependent on him than they've ever been.
Las Vegas Raiders.
T.Y. Maybe we'll say T.Y. Hilton. We'll say T.Y. I'll change it to T.Y.
You can't. I'll put both. I
just think I got to give some credit to T.Y. I think he's been there the longest, so we'll give him some credit.
Okay. Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, man. Let's see. Carr. We'll go with Carr.
Okay. Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh. Lamar Jackson.
Okay. I know fans may have been a little upset if you mentioned Mark Ingram or J.K. Dobbins over Lamar Jackson, so I'm pretty impressed that no one's going to come for your head today, Garrett. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ooh, Pittsburgh Steelers. Antonio Brown. No, I'm just kidding. Oh,
goodness.
Big Ben. We'll go Big Ben.
Okay. Let's go NFC now. The Atlanta Falcons.
Julio Jones.
Okay. He used to be on all of my fantasy teams. This year I have 5 fantasy teams. Julio Jones is not on one of them. I might add, one thing I told Garrett recently, I did a fantasy draft a couple nights ago. I'm going to brag on myself a little bit. I think the first 3 picks were – I got to pull this up on my phone because I know I sent this to you. But, guys, when you hear this, you're going to be like, how in the world was Jay able to draft these guys? Honestly, I don't know because I was texting Garrett, another one of my buddies, Brian Ricks, that were on the podcast, and they were both kind of amazed that I was able to pull this off. So the first 3 picks, now granted, I did have the number 1 pick in this draft, but the first 3 picks in this draft by me, first 3 rounds, Christian McCaffrey, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins in the 3rd round. How did I pull that off? I don't know. But for some reason, in every draft I did, DeAndre Hopkins did fall out of the 2nd round, which I was like, what are you guys doing? But back to the game. Arizona Cardinals, first player that comes to your mind.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Okay. The gift that keeps on giving. He's never going to leave. San Francisco 49ers.
Bosa.
Okay. Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. Adam Thielen.
Okay. Detroit Lions. A lot of Detroit fans out there.
Detroit Lions. I'm not going to say Adrian Peterson, though. I could.
You could.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm not going to say Adrian Peterson. We'll go Matt Stafford. He's been there so long. We'll go Matt Stafford.
Washington football team.
Washington football team. Chase Young. I love him. I think he's going to be so good. I think he's at his speed. I sent you that video.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. He is so fast. He's going to demolish some people. Wait till he plays Daniel. God help Daniel Jones. When he is going to kill him in those games. They need to pray for that man. They better get the ready at the wheelchair. And you ever watch Space Jam? Remember Space Jam? They had to blow him back up again?
Yeah.
The guy, that's Daniel Jones against the Washington Redskins. When Ron Rivera dials up some of those defensive blitzes, Chase Young is going to fly on that in that game, those games.
I got 3 more for you. I got 2 in the NFC and then 1 back in the AFC. 3 more. The Giants. Who is the first player that comes to your mind?
Saquon Barkley.
Dallas Cowboys?
We'll go Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay. And the Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's easy. Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. The reason that I did that, guys, is I know a lot of people, when you think about a team, you think, oh, the first person that comes to that person's mind is a quarterback. Automatically. You think of the Vikings, Kirk Cousins. You think of the Bears, either Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky. You think of the Rams, Jared Goff. I didn't say those. You think of the Bengals, Joe Burrow. You think of the Titans, Tannehill. I couldn't think of his first name, even though I'm just throwing quarterbacks out there. But might I add, I'm just going to read these off to you. He did mention 2 defensive linemen that both played at The Ohio State University who produces great defensive linemen, great defensive ends.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to read this off to you. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks. No, 7 quarterbacks. I counted the Colts as a quarterback. So 7 quarterbacks. And then for other players, other positions, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll put 8 because he did mention T.Y. Hilton. So 8. So basically half and half. Someone's going to go back, I know, and double-check my math. I try to do that quickly. But half and half, you would think, wait, most people, when you think about a team, it's the quarterback. Not really. Just shows how many great players there are at other positions outside of quarterbacks and how many guys that aren't quarterbacks are literally the face of their team. I don't know a person, not one, when you think about the Washington football team that thinks of Dwayne Haskins or Terry McLaurin. Everybody goes to Chase Young, and he hasn't played 1 snap of NFL football just yet. That's just how good he is. 49ers or the Chargers. I don't know any person. Yeah, maybe. You might say
Kittle.
You might say Kittle. But most people, they're thinking about the Bosa brothers, Nick in San Francisco, Joey in L.A. That's just a fun way to think about it. But to wrap this up, I want to thank Garrett for coming on. But to wrap this up, I'm going to give you my division winners and then also Garrett's division winners. I'm going to go AFC, NFC both combined first, and then Garrett go right into yours. I'll go first as the host because I don't want to just be like, oh, no, let me change mine to make sure to see how Garrett does his. I will say, I have had this the same way for a week, so this has not changed at all. I say no. I'm hesitant on the Super Bowl predictions. I'm not sure about which way I'm going just yet, but I do know which way I'll go with that. So the AFC division winners and then the NFC division winners, I have the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Colts. In the NFC, the Cowboys, the Vikings, 49ers, and the Saints. Garrett, your turn.
All right. I think we're almost exactly like in the AFC. Help me out here. So the East, I'll agree with you, Buffalo. And the North, yep, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and then the Colts. Yeah, so I agree. I think we agree totally on the AFC. I think the AFC is a little more like, solid as far as who's going to win those divisions. Depending on injuries. If injuries happen, then everything changes. The only division, and I'll stop after this talking, but I'll just go to my NFC. But the only division to me that's in the air a little bit is actually the Chiefs, because I think that division is so hard.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Denver, and I know you didn't ask for this, but you texted it to me, because I'll just randomly shout it out to you. But I think the team in the AFC that's going to surprise everybody is Denver. I think Locke is such a good thrower of the football. They brought in Melvin Gordon. Man, they're good. I think they're going to be good. And playing in Denver, I don't care if there's fans or not. Playing in Denver is just really difficult, no matter what.
For fans out there and Garrett's talking about the weather. Denver a couple days ago, I have a friend that lives out there in Colorado. A couple days ago in Colorado, I think it was Denver, Colorado to be exact, it was 93 degrees. The very next day, the high was 35 degrees, and it snowed yesterday, which was Tuesday. And then I believe it's snowing today, which is Wednesday. You'll hear this no earlier than Thursday, which means there's a good chance that there being snow out there in Colorado right now. 2020 is crazy, and the weather in Colorado is crazy as well. Imagine, I believe they're hosting a game Monday night. Imagine the first game of the season that you're hosting in prime time is literally a snowball in September to start the season. 2020 stopped making things up, but we all football fans, we love our snow football. It would just be kind of funny if in LA or in Florida it's sunny, 95 degrees outside, everybody's sweating, trying to just get more water in the system, and then in Colorado they're having to put coats on and bring the heater seats out there and all that kind of stuff. But NFC division winners.
Sure.
Who you got, Garrett?
Okay, so this is where we differ. I think I'm maybe 3 or 4 of them. So I don't have the order right in front of me. You have the order, but as far as in the South, we'll go. I agree with you with New Orleans. I think it's the only one I agree with you. I like Seattle. And let me see, who else we got? NFC. Okay, the East. I like the Eagles.
Okay.
And who else? Help me out.
Bears, Lions, Packers, or Vikings?
Thank you. I'm going Packers.
See, I tussled with the Eagles and the Packers, but I think the defense of the Vikings is kind of their strong suit, and I don't think you need to rely on Kirk Cousins to win the division. I don't believe that. I think the defense is too good, too elite, and I just think that's going to be a place for them that they're going to win this year. Now, I'm going to throw a little wrinkle in this. AFC and NFC. What team do you think will sneak into the playoffs in both divisions? And both of mine will shock you. I'm even shocked that the one of them is going to come out of my mouth. AFC, I got the Browns making the playoffs. I think I think Ben Roethlisberger. Right. I don't know how long he'll play. I don't know if he'll play 16 games. And even if he does, I just don't know what to expect from him. And then also in the NFC, the team that I think is going to get the 7th seed sneak into the playoffs, the Arizona Cardinals.
I agree with you. That's my shock team in the NFC. That's why that was my shock team in the NFC. You asked
guys, we did not share this with each other beforehand at all. I just said have this ready. So Garrett, your 7th seed in the AFC and then the NFC. Who you got?
7th seed in the AFC. I like Denver.
Okay.
I like Drew Lock so much. And I love that team. This exciting team and who they have offensively. And man, they're going to be so good at running the football. Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon, are you kidding me? That might be, to me, the best duo in the league.
Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. Watch it, sir. Watch it. You see the hat on my head. Watch it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I agree. Yeah, Taylor is, I drafted him in one of my fantasy leagues, and you texted me and said I was going to get him. You were about to get him, so you're excited about him. He's rookie this year, right?
Yeah, rookie.
So he'll be and that offensive line, whoo man, best offensive line in football by a mile. So we'll see, and that's good for Phillip Rivers. Anyways, but we already picked them to win the division, so they're not the sneak team. But Denver for me, and I agree with you. The Cardinals. I think the Cardinals. I think Hopkins is. I think Kyler Murray's going to love having Hopkins and Fitzgerald, and I like Christian Kirk a lot. He's on the up and up. He was kind of a lot of people's fantasy sleepers last year was Christian Kirk. And I think he's going to play. He's going to play good. And I like who they got, Kenyon Drake, and they can run the football. Of course, they got Chandler Jones. Oh my goodness, Chandler Jones, and I hate the fact that he left the page. I was so bummed when he left, and then he just went. I think he had 20 sacks last year, 21 sacks. So, and they're always good defensively. Peterson's still there. He's a stud. He'll always be a stud. And Larry Fitzgerald is just, like you said, the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah. I mean, he's going to get you his catches. He's going to be a good third down. I think possibly you have 2,000-yard receivers on that team, and Fitzgerald maybe about 700-800 yards. But I think Kirk's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver this year, and I think Hopkins is going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. So, yeah, I like them in the NFC as my sleeper team.
So, AFC Championship game. I'll do this and then go right to the NFC Championship game. And I'll also give you my winner as well, then turn it over to Garrett. AFC Championship game. I got the Colts and the Chiefs. The Colts winning that one. NFC Championship. The defense, man. The front seven's too good. And
you're a homer. That's all.
No, I'm a big believer that you don't need an elite quarterback to go deep and to get to the Super Bowl. If you have, I'll take Phillip Rivers over Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes,
I'll do that. I'm a big. If you have a good front seven,
we don't have to talk about that today, but that would be an interesting, segment. Like who would you take Phillip Rivers versus? And you would probably be surprised that we might take him over a third of the quarterbacks that are around.
Yeah,
I'd take him. I would have him over Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Sure, I would have him. I might even. You might be surprised, but I might have him over Prescott. I don't know. I'm not a big believer in Prescott.
Okay.
I might have him over. I might even have him over Carson Wentz because he can't stay healthy.
Okay.
I might take him over Ben Roethlisberger because Ben's a mystery to me.
Yeah.
He's hurt so often and he's getting old. And Phillip Rivers, despite the fact that he is, sometimes he just frustrates you. He stays on the field.
Yeah.
He gives you a chance to win. Look at last year. All the games the Chargers lost by 7 or fewer points. It was easily 6, 7, 8 games. With the Colts, can he win those games with that team? Yes. Those games could flip the other way. Colts could be 11-5. Could surprise us. Could be a second or third seed by the time it's all said and done. So
yeah, and then the NFC, I have this is really going to surprise you because it's going to surprise me as well. I got Saints and I'll do what I'll do what I believe is going to happen. Saints and Vikings in the NFC Championship. Defense for the Vikings is elite, and also Saints as well. I have the Saints winning the NFC, get a repeat of the 2009 Super Bowl. Saints and Colts there. I'll let you get to your AFC and NFC conference champions first, and then I'll let you know who I think is going to win it.
Sure. Everybody's riding the Chiefs. No team. It's been 17 years since a team has won back-to-back.
Yeah.
And it's just so tough. So in the AFC Championship game, boy, oh boy, this is tough for me. I think the Ravens will be there. I think this is the year they can get there. So they win it, I don't know. But I'll give you my prediction. I'm going through this in my head as we speak. But I like the Ravens. And, man, you're convincing me with the Colts. So I'll put the Colts there. Ravens and Colts.
Okay.
And I think the Ravens get over the hump into the Super Bowl this year.
Okay.
And they were by far should have been in the Super Bowl last year, but didn't get there. So I like the Ravens. I think the Colts are a year away, maybe a year. We'll see. But I don't know. I'm so stuck up on Phillip Rivers.
Yeah. I get that.
We'll see. If he comes out and the Colts, they come out and they go 4-0, 5-0, I may change that. I may ride your bandwagon with you to see the Colts. You remember last year I told you I thought the Colts were going to be, and then they kind of fell off at the end because of
Yeah.
injuries and stuff. If Hilton can stay healthy, then we'll see. So I like that. I like that idea, but I like the Ravens in the AFC. In the NFC, I've got Seattle and New Orleans.
Okay.
I agree with you with New Orleans. I like Seattle. Did you give your predictions of who's going to win those games?
I'll do that next. Oh wait, the conference championship games. Yeah, I had the Colts winning the AFC. I had the Saints winning the NFC.
So I think Seattle and Baltimore.
Okay.
That's what I've got. Seattle and Baltimore.
I can kind of guess who I think your prediction is to win the Super Bowl. But I'll give mine. Yeah, I know everybody wants both either Phillip Rivers or Drew Brees to go out holding up the trophy, holding up the Lombardi. I just don't think the Saints can do it this year. I would just love for it to be 4 years in a row to where the Saints can't do it, and the Colts actually do win. I believe Garrett. I believe in their front, the defensive line, the guys that they have there. A guy that was hurt last year that a lot of people are going to be surprised about. He's not going to start, but he is going to be someone that's going to get he's going to be in the rotation every single game. Tyquan Lewis, another defensive lineman out of the Ohio State University.
So you're taking the Colts?
Yes. Colts over the Saints because of the defensive front, primarily the D-line. I am a big believer that you win a game inside out. You build a team inside out. Without a good O-line, D-line, linebacking core, you can't win anything, which is why we see teams like the Buccaneers last year and the Cardinals last year. They have great skill players. O-line's horrible. O-line's trash. And you can't win that way. There's other teams. I did a segment on my podcast where I went around and different quarterbacks that got sacked 40 or 45 plus times last year. That's not a winning formula. You can't win that way. Phillip Rivers last year, O-line was ridiculous. Guard center guard. When you look at the games from last year, he was literally running for his life because at the snap of the ball, he's having pressure right in his face every single second. Well, the offensive line of the Colts, you mentioned it best in the NFL by a mile from your analysis. Then also the D-line of the Colts, man. I think they're going to turn heads, and you have a quarterback you can believe in, not the Jacoby Brissett, but you're hoping he can be something. You don't need it, in my opinion. You don't need an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. You just need pieces around him to pick up where he falls. I think the Colts win over the Saints this year, and I hope Drew Brees comes back next year, but I just don't know if his farewell tour will keep on going because at some point they may have to take care of his babies. But Garrett, who do you think is going to win it?
I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You don't need an elite quarterback. You're right. For example, Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Rex Grossman got there. He didn't win it much. Rex Grossman got to the Super Bowl, okay? And we all knew the Colts were going to win that. And it still drives me and grinds me in my heart to this day that I know Brady would have had 7 if they had held the lead against the Colts in 2006. Anyways, because we knew who was going to – that was the Super Bowl, okay?
Yeah.
That game was the Super Bowl. Whoever won that game was winning the whole thing. So congratulations to the Colts for winning back then. As far as I'm concerned, I think I'm big on quarterbacks, and I just think if you look at the game, you got a Ravens Seahawks Super Bowl would be awesome to watch.
Man.
Incredible Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh, that is good.
I would love to be. Yeah, it'd be a great game. Coaches, Pete Carroll, Harbaugh, man, oh man. I think it comes down to experience.
Okay.
And that's why I would take Seattle. He should have 2. I think this is the year they get 2. I think they were 1 yard away from knocking San Francisco, if you remember that game, out of the number 1 seed, and that would have flipped that whole NFC on its head. So 1 yard. They were 1 yard from a Super Bowl, 1 yard from getting the 49ers out of the number 1 seed. I think they might have been the number 1 seed themselves if they had won that game, or number 2.
No, it was both teams. You're playing for 1st or 5th seed. The winner of that game was doing that.
Exactly.
To help to paint the picture for this, Garrett is exactly right. 1 yard away. But that was the last game of the season, Sunday Night Football in prime time. And anytime you have Al Michaels on the call doing a game, you know it's going to be top notch. But I don't think anybody expected the finish that we saw last year. Reminds me of that Rams and Titans Super Bowl from when we were kids. 1 yard literally was what separated them from pushing that game further. The Rams won. Thank God for a tackle that happened in the field of play. But yeah, man. And
even that one wasn't even as close as the 49ers and that was so close. And if we remember, should have been a pass interference, I think, on the play before,
Yeah.
which I'm not a fan of either team, but I hate when referees decide games. I hate it. I despise it with all that was within me. If I could have it my way, I would just get rid of referees and we could just go all electronic. That's just my opinion. Why can't we do that? I don't know. We shouldn't have to have referees. My thought on it. But I like Seattle to win the whole thing. And I think Metcalf is gonna play better this year. And he was on the up and up, if you remember.
Yeah.
As the season wore on, he played a lot better. Carson's a good running back. I think they brought back somebody, Paul Richardson. They brought back a guy, pretty good receiver. Lockett's a stud. I like their tight ends. And I think Russell Wilson, if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson's just superhuman year, I liked Russell Wilson as the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people agree with that statement. There was a couple other McCaffrey was there. Believe it or not, I don't know if you know this, but it's been since 2007 that a running back has won MVP, which I think is kind of ridiculous. I wish there was more parity, if you will, as far as the MVP is concerned, because it's going to be a quarterback. I wish they kind of maybe let's just add an award maybe, or quarterback of the year or something, because it's just the MVP is a quarterback's award. So be interesting to see. But I like defensively. I like Seattle. I always like them defensively. Pete Carroll is a great coach. I think this is the year you kind of see them go all the way. I like him all the way. Colin Cowherd has the Ravens at 16-0. I don't know if you knew that, but he predicted them 16-0, which I think is stupid because you don't have home field. And the team, everybody's so talented. And so, I'll shut up there. But, that's my Super Bowl pick.
Good old Colin. The one thing I will say that's in the Ravens' favor, which I just don't like at all, I heard this, it may have been on his show. After, I think, week 4, week 5, they don't travel further than 75 miles away from home to go to a game. You see the 70, it's something stupid. I'm like, so you guys, they're already – now, Grant, remember, they didn't go deep into the playoffs, so the kind of structure of their season is not going to be as hard as other teams would be. They're kind of the middle of the pack, so they're not traveling very far. It could have been their rotation as well about who they play in the NFC, but, yeah, man, it's very, very they're very fortunate, let's put it that way, with that. Garrett, one more time, and also before I get to that part, I will say, guys, Garrett will come back on eventually. I'm not sure when. It will be random, and we may just do like an off-the-cuff, like topics, things we may disagree on, just to kind of give a little different kind of friendly back and forth, friendly banter with that. So be looking out for that. That will probably come sometime before the year is out, just a little random episode on a midweek episode, so Garrett and I can have a little bit of fun. But Garrett, let the people know once again the name of your podcast and then where they can listen to it.
Yep, it's a No Holds Barred podcast. It's on Anchor, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple. So I try to share all the links. I just started an Instagram page, which has been pretty successful. I get a ton of followers now, which I think was your suggestion, because you can kind of connect with all these other podcasts, and it's been kind of cool because I've had podcasters in like Australia and other parts of the world. They're like, hey, you're a podcaster too. Let's talk. And then, and then they send me the links so I'll just check it out. And they're talking about rugby and soccer or football for them. So it's kind of neat. So I really enjoyed that. And so, I'm on Instagram, the No Holds Barred podcast. And I'm thinking about doing maybe a Facebook page or something, kind of get it out there a little bit more. But I am about to do another episode. I kind of want to do my own NFL preview because you kind of got me sparked. So, because man, it's tomorrow, so I can't wait. But I love coming on, and of course, if you check out my previous recordings, there's the most recent one I did was with Jay. We previewed the Celtics Raptors series and we talked about some different other things. But check it out.
I'll say this to Garrett. I haven't said it to him yet before about this Celtics and Raptors series. I am losing faith in the Toronto Raptors. I'm not changing my pick. I will not change my pick. I'm going to hold it until they're gone.
Hey,
but
change your pick.
I am losing. I am losing faith in this team. Boston is just too good. And on that note, I'm not giving you a second to talk about that and to make me feel bad about picking the Raptors to win this series. Garrett, Grandy,
in 6.
Thank you once again.
Jay said it in 6, people. He said it in 6.
Yes, I said Raptors in 6 before the series. Garrett had to sneak that in there. But here we are now, and I think the series may be over Very soon. Garrett, Grandy, thank you so much.
One
yes,
thing.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Week 1, Jay and I are playing each other in fantasy, and I will make sure that everybody finds out who won that game because, we're in each other's leagues. But in my league, week 1, I think the projection is like 138 to 137, which is something just ridiculous. And it's like 51 to 49%. So I'm really looking forward to. I think it's been a while since we did the same league, probably back in college. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I'm ready, man. I can't beat you athletically probably in pretty much anything, but as far as fantasy football, we'll see who's got the mind. But yeah,
a quarterback that I picked up in almost every league, and I keep going longer, but this is fun. I picked up Kyler Murray in almost every league that I have. So if you are out there and you have, by this time, listen to this, your fantasy draft would have been done, would have been completed. But if you want to find a way to trade for a quarterback that may be a breakout QB this year, my suggestion to you, Kyler Murray for you. Garrett, Grandy, I'll do it once again. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We're looking for Garrett to come back on here soon. Not sure if it'll be in the NBA playoffs or after, but we're looking to have him come back on here very, very soon to have a friendly back and forth with a friend about sports topics we disagree with. Garrett, thank you so much.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.